Yo! What's the word, everybody? Here we are back with another video, and today we're going to discuss my watch. It was a request from the last video I did, the Depth Charge novel review, and a guy named John, I think, shout out to John, wanted to know more about the watch, and so I figured, well, what better place to do a dive watch review than on a boat? And so I'm sitting on a boat that we're going to do some repairs on before it gets launched over the summer here. So it's in my shop currently. So I'm like half on a boat, dry docked, but it's all good. It's the thought that counts. So today, the dive watch that I daily drive, basically. I've got a whole bunch of watches, but this is the one that's found itself on my wrist for over a year now. I just absolutely love it. So I'm gonna change the camera angle real quick so that we can see the watch while I'm talking about it, and we'll get into it here. All right, so here she is. This is a Yenny Caribbean 300, and this is the 50th reissue of the Yenny Caribbean 700. Now this is a really special watch, and one of the reasons that I like it so much, I mean there's endless reasons why I like it. I mean, the aesthetics of it are beautiful, but there's a lot of history behind this brand. Okay, there it is, looks great. So, I mean, obviously the aesthetics are beautiful, beautiful bright blue dial that I've just really never seen before. I mean, there's a lot of watches out there with blue dials, but none of them really come close to this brilliant blue that this is. So, brilliant blue dial, beautiful bezel on the dial here, and I'll get into that in just a second, but I want to talk a little bit about the history of this watch first. Now, Yenny is a still family-owned watch brand. They've been around since, I believe, the early 60s. And really, for a long time, they were making great big strides in the dive watch community, specifically in the cases that they were making. And they were making these cases and selling them to all sorts of different brands. Fortis, I mean, just a bunch of different brands. And they were the first to patent a case that was pressure rated for 1,000 feet, I believe. I believe it was 1,000 feet. And they made several great advancements, great strides that kind of the rest of the dive watch community has, our dive watch industry has followed over the years. And during the quartz crisis that the watch industry went through, Yenny actually acquired the brand Doxa. Now, Doxa is, of course, very famous for their orange-faced dive watch that I mentioned in the last video that the character in Clive Cussler's novels, Dirk Pitt, would wear. And in fact, there's in the movie Sahara with Matthew McConaughey, where he played Dirk Pitt, he is wearing a orange-faced Doxa. I think it's the 1500, which is a professional dive watch. And Dirk Pitt wore that throughout most of the book series that Clive Cussler wrote. So that's what started me on this kind of love of watches, was growing up reading those books, and I thought, man, I'd love to get a Doxa one day. And of course, being 15, 16 years old, looking up on the internet how much they cost, it kind of was like, oh man, like, am I ever going to spend that much on a watch, or am I ever going to get to that level? So Yenny, when they acquired Doxa during the quartz crisis, because Doxa was not handling it that well, they brought in, of course, their knowledge of dive watches and everything like that. So they really kind of helped up Doxa's game as well. But so this is, and I wanted that Doxa because of the Dirk Pitt connection, but I also was like, man, orange is, that's kind of a bright, obnoxious color to wear on your wrist every day. So what I ended up finding out was that there's this connection with Yenny to Doxa, and I love the blue, and I thought, you know, that's pretty close to what Dirk Pitt would wear. This is something that I might like to get. So I ended up actually getting it after having opened my business and been in business for 1 year. I got this as a 1-year anniversary present to myself for being in business for a year. And here we are about 2.5 years later, having started the business. So I've worn this watch pretty much every day for about 1.5 years. And it's just so comfortable to wear. The bracelet is a beads of rice bracelet that just folds and meshes so nicely along the wrist, makes it very wearable. I believe it's a 42 millimeter case. Lug to lug is actually quite big. It's 50 millimeters, but you can see that the case back is kind of bubbled a little bit, and that allows it to sit higher on the wrist. And so that 50 millimeter lug to lug number is actually quite wearable because of the case back and how it props it up on your wrist. But like I said, so this is the reissue of their 700. So this is actually kind of a nice piece of watch history, you know, an homage to that vintage diving watch era where, you know, back when diving was dangerous and sex was safe type of a thing. The bezel is coin edged, which has a really nice look to it. The only bummer is that it occasionally becomes hard to twist if your hands are a little sweaty or something like that, but it moves quite nicely. Lots of great clicking action that you can feel in there. But the thing about the bezel that makes this really unique is it's a decompression timing bezel. So, and I learned how to do it a long time ago, and I can't remember exactly now, but these numbers along the bezel, there's math involved where, you know, if you go down to, let's say, 60 feet and you spend a certain amount of time down there, this bezel will actually tell you how much time you need to decompress on your way back up, and it does it for all sorts of different depths. So it's a really cool looking bezel. It's a nice change from what you normally see on dive watches with just, you know, a 5, 10, 15, 20 countdown bezel to measure elapsed time. So this has got a really, really cool look to it that looks really nice on the wrist. I'll put it back on the, oh, here, I'll show you the case back first, which is very cool itself. So it's got Yenny's swordfish, which is their insignia. You can see 50th anniversary re-edition. They only made 500 of these in each color scheme, and they made 2 or 3 different color schemes. So this is number 54 out of 500. And I'll put it back on here. So, and I've got a relatively smaller wrist, and as you can see, it wears very nicely. It does not appear too big. It feels really good, like I said, with the beads of rice bracelet on it. Now I crashed a friend's dirt bike last year and really scuffed up the bracelet, but that's okay. You know, gives a nice look to it. Now the fish there on the clasp is actually Doxa's fish, and that's how these things came. But you can see it's stamped Yenny, and then on the crown is the swordfish as well, just the same on the case back. The dive window, or the date window, is very clear, very legible. And I mean, just the overall legibility of this watch is quite nice. You can look at it from most different angles and get a good sense of the time on it. So I picked it up used. The reissue date of this, I think, was back in like 2010 or 2012. So they sold out of them, and now you can find them on eBay or on any of the you know, some of the used watch websites and things like that. But they don't come up all too often. So it actually took me a couple months of searching to find the blue dial. They made a black dial with an orange bezel. They made a yellow dial, and then they made an all silver one as well. And I believe that was it. They could have made a few others, but really a really unique piece. It's got an ETA 2824 movement in it, 42-hour power reserve. Very, very beautiful watch to wear, and I just love it. It's going to be hard for me to find something to not replace this with, but that will match it as sort of a daily driver. And I mean, value for money. When they were purchased new, if you were not a Doxa watch owner already, you paid $1,200 for it brand new. If you were a Doxa owner, it came out to be like $985. So if you were already a part of the family, you got a little bit of a discount. If it was your first time, you know, you paid full retail for it. I picked it up for, I don't know, maybe around $700 or $800 on eBay, and that's about what you'll find them for today. So, you know, it's not vintage Rolex territory or anything like that where you buy them and then they increase in value like you know, like Tesla or something like that. But you know, I have a feeling that these things will hold their value at around the $700 to $1,000 price range, depending on the quality and in what shape it's in. But just overall, I mean, it's just, I just stare at that blue dial sometimes because it is just so mesmerizing and so beautiful. All right, thanks for watching that little watch video. Maybe I'll show off kind of my other collection of watches sometime in the future here. But I think this is kind of the crown jewel of my modest collection of watches. So thanks, John, for the idea on a video. Hope you enjoyed it. Hope everybody enjoyed it. Hit that like button, hit subscribe. We're gonna be, like I said, doing more videos on this boat here. I've got a surprise. It's a new sailboat to me that we're gonna start working on, and that's gonna be in one of the next videos or so, so stick around for that. Thank you guys so much for watching. Hope you enjoyed this video, and have a great night, and we'll see you on the next one.